There is a place in your body that never quite lets go. You lie down at the end of the day, and you tell it to rest, and it obeys, almost. The shoulders drop a little, the breath slows, but something underneath stays switched on, a low hum, a readiness that has no name and no off switch. You've stopped noticing it, mostly. It's been there so long it feels like you. But it isn't you, it's a body that learned, a long time ago, that letting go completely was not safe, and never received the message that the danger has passed, the tension that never leaves, the clenched jaw, the held breath, the shoulders that won't drop, and the discovery that you don't actually know what full relaxation feels like. They lie down at the end of the day and give the instruction, relax, and the body complies, part way. The obvious tension releases, the muscles they can feel let go, and then, at a certain depth, the letting go stops. As if it hits a floor it cannot pass through, something underneath stays on. They may not even have language for it, because it has been there so long it registers as normal. But if they pause and scan, they find it. The jaw that is faintly clenched even now, the shoulders that sit a little higher than shoulders need to, the breath that lives up in the chest and never fully descends into the belly, a subtle, all-over readiness, like a hand that is always slightly gripping. And here is the discovery that arrives, sometimes in a quiet moment. They do not actually know what full relaxation feels like. They know rest as a lighter version of tension, never as its absence. They have felt tired and they have felt calmer, but they cannot recall the sensation of a body that has completely, totally let go, because they have possibly never felt it, or not since so long ago that the memory is gone. Watch where it hides. It hides in the jaw, worked in sleep, sore in the morning, in the shoulders that creep toward the ears through an ordinary day and have to be consciously lowered, only to creep back up minutes later, in the stomach that holds a low, quiet tightness, in the breath, always the breath, that stays shallow, guarded, as if a full exhale would leave them somehow exposed. They have theories for it: stress, too much screen time, bad posture, a demanding job. And those things are real and do contribute. But they notice something the theories don't explain. The tension does not leave when the stressor does. The deadline passes and the shoulders stay up. The vacation comes and, for the first few days, the body cannot figure out how to stop. The tension is not a response to what is happening now. It is a baseline, a resting state that is not, in fact, restful. This is the strange truth at the center. For most people, tension is a visitor. It arrives with a threat and leaves when the threat is gone. For them, tension is a resident. It has moved in. It is there in the calm moments, in the safe rooms, in the middle of an ordinary peaceful evening when nothing is wrong at all. They have stopped noticing it, the way you stop hearing a sound that never stops. It has become the texture of being them. But it was not always there. It moved in at some point, for a reason. And a body that cannot stop bracing is not a body that is broken. It is a body that is still, faithfully, doing a job no one ever told it to stop doing. When the body learned to stand, guard early environments where the body had to stay ready, how vigilance became the body's default setting, not a passing state. The body does not brace for no reason. Bracing is expensive, it costs energy, wears on the muscles, disturbs the breath. No system maintains a costly state unless it once needed to. So the question is never, why won't my body relax? The question is, what did my body learn it had to stay ready for? And the answer is almost always somewhere in the beginning. The bracing usually begins in an environment where relaxing fully was not in fact safe, where the body needed to stay at least partly ready. And so it did, and then it never got to stop. For some, it was a home that was unpredictable, where the emotional weather could shift without warning, and a child never knew which version of an evening was coming. In a house like that, the body cannot afford to fully let down its guard, because full relaxation means being caught off guard, and being caught off guard is dangerous. So the child's body stayed braced, a little bit ready, all the time, and that readiness, held through the years of childhood, hardened into the body's default. For some, it was chronic stress rather than acute danger. A household under constant strain, financial fear, illness, a parent barely coping, where the atmosphere was one of perpetual low emergency. There was no single threat to point to, just a background hum of things never quite being okay, and a child's body absorbing that hum, learning to match it, learning that the world is a place where you do not get to fully rest. For some, it was the simple absence of true safety, not danger exactly, but the lack of anyone whose presence told the body it could stand down. A child needs to borrow calm from a regulated adult before they can generate it themselves. Without that, the body never learns the feeling of being safely at rest, and so never establishes it as a baseline it can return to. It only knows readiness, because readiness is all it was ever taught. And in every version, the same thing happened. A state that was meant to be temporary became permanent. Vigilance is designed to be a phase. You brace, the threat passes, you release. But when the threat does not pass, when it is not a single event but a whole childhood, the body does not get to complete the cycle. It never reaches the release. The bracing has nowhere to discharge, so it stays. And held long enough, through the formative years when the body is deciding what normal is, it stops being a response and becomes a setting. This is the crucial thing. The child did not decide to be tense. The body made the adjustment on its own, wisely, doing exactly what a body is supposed to do in an environment that is not fully safe. It stayed ready. It kept them prepared. It was, in its way, a form of protection, running silently, keeping the child braced for whatever might come, and it worked well enough that they survived. Which means the body learned that the bracing was necessary, and a body that learns something is necessary does not easily give it up. The environment changed. The child grew. The unsafe house receded into the past, but the setting stayed set. The body is still standing guard in a war that ended long ago, still holding a readiness it was never told it could release, because no one ever came to tell it the danger had passed, the alarm that never turned off. The autonomic nervous system, chronic activation, and how a system built for temporary threat gets stuck in permanent readiness. Beneath the tension is a system, and understanding it explains almost everything. The body runs on an autonomic nervous system, the part that operates without your input, managing everything from heartbeat to breath to the tension in your muscles. It has two broad modes. One is the state of readiness, the sympathetic branch, often called fight or flight, which prepares the body to meet a threat. Muscles tightened, breath quickened, senses sharpened, everything mobilized for action. The other is the state of rest, the parasympathetic branch, sometimes called rest and digest, in which the body stands down, repairs itself, and settles into calm. This design is elegant, and it is meant to move. A threat appears, the readiness state activates. You respond, the threat passes, and then the system returns to rest. Activate, respond, release, restore. The readiness was never meant to be a place you live. It was meant to be a place you visit, briefly, and then leave. But in a body shaped by early, ongoing stress, the return never fully happened. The system got stuck part-way into readiness and never made it all the way back. And so it runs, chronically, in a low-grade version of fight or flight. Not the dramatic, acute alarm of an emergency, but a quiet, constant, background activation that never switches off. The muscles stay slightly tightened. The breath stays slightly quickened. The body stays, always, a little bit mobilized for a threat that is no longer coming. This is why they cannot think their way to relaxation. The tension is not being generated by their thoughts. It is being generated by an autonomic system operating below the reach of conscious control. A system that does not take instructions from the thinking mind. You can tell yourself you are safe, sincerely and repeatedly, and the muscles will not soften, because the muscles were never listening to your thoughts. They are taking orders from a much older, deeper part of you that decided, long ago, that readiness was required. And there is a principle here that names the whole phenomenon. The body keeps the score. It holds what the mind moves on from. A person can consciously forget a difficult childhood, can genuinely believe they are over it, can have no distressing memories at all, and the body will still be holding it, in the tension of the jaw, the guard of the shoulders, the shallowness of the breath. The mind forgets, the body remembers. The stress that the thinking self has long since filed away is still being carried, faithfully, in the tissue. This is what makes the tension so hard to reach. It is not a psychological problem sitting in the mind, where reasoning could touch it. It is a physiological pattern held in the body, in a system that predates language and does not respond to it. The alarm was set decades ago. It has been ringing quietly ever since. And the thinking mind, which would gladly turn it off, does not have access to the switch. The body is not malfunctioning. It is doing precisely what it learned to do. It is running an emergency response to an emergency that ended a long time ago, because no one, in all the years since, ever showed it, in the only language it understands, that the emergency is over. Showing the body it's over, that safety cannot be thought, only felt. How the body slowly learns, through the body, that the emergency has ended. If the tension does not live in the mind, then the mind is not where it can be released. This is the turning point, and it reverses everything most people try. They have spent years attempting to relax by deciding to, telling themselves to calm down, reasoning with the tension, understanding intellectually that they are safe now, and being baffled when the understanding changes nothing in the body. And the reason it changes nothing is simple. Safety cannot be thought. It can only be felt. The nervous system does not update through insight. It updates through experience, through the direct, physical sensation of safety delivered in the body's own language. So the way through is not more thinking. It is the slow work of showing the body, rather than telling it, that the emergency has ended. The body learns this the way it learned anything, through repetition at its own pace. And the entry point is usually the breath, because the breath is the one part of the autonomic system that is also under conscious control, the bridge between the two worlds. A slow, full exhale is not just air leaving. It is a direct signal to the nervous system, in a language it actually understands, that says, we are not in danger, it is safe to stand down. Done gently, repeatedly, over time, the breath begins to coax the system out of readiness and toward rest, not by force, but by demonstration. And there are other doors, the felt sense of safety in a calm, regulated presence, where the body borrows another's steadiness, the slow discharge that comes from movement, from warmth, from being held, from anything that lets the body complete the release it never got to finish. All of them work the same way, not by convincing the mind, but by giving the body a direct, repeated experience of safety until it begins, tentatively, to believe it. This is slow, and it does not feel like progress. It feels, at first, like almost nothing. The body has held its readiness for a lifetime. It does not surrender it in an afternoon. And there is often a strange resistance, because deep relaxation, for someone who has never known it, can itself feel unsafe. The guard coming down feels like danger, because the guard coming down was always dangerous before. The body may flinch at its own release, may pull the tension back the moment it starts to let go. This is not failure. It is the body being cautious about a thing it was taught to fear. But with enough repetition, enough slow exhales, enough safe presence, enough experiences of letting go where nothing bad follows, the system begins to update. It reaches a little further into rest than it did before. It holds the calm a little longer. It discovers, in increments, that release does not lead to catastrophe, and a body that discovers this enough times begins, slowly, to trust it. They might notice it first as a moment, a breath that unexpectedly reaches all the way down, shoulders that drop and, for once, stay dropped. A depth of ease they cannot remember feeling, the sensation of a body that is not, for this moment, standing guard. It is not a cure, and the vigilance does not vanish. It is something quieter, the body finally receiving, in its own language, the message it waited a lifetime for. It's over. You can let go now. The rest you were always owed, the difference between collapse and true rest. The quiet return of a body finally allowed to put down the weight it forgot it was carrying. There is a difference between collapse and rest, and the person who has never truly relaxed knows only the first. Collapse is what happens when the braced body finally runs out. It is not a letting go, it is a giving out. The exhaustion at the end of a long day, the crash into sleep, the shutdown of a system that has held its readiness until it simply cannot anymore. It looks like rest from the outside, but it is not the body releasing its guard. It is the body being overwhelmed past the point of holding it, and it does not restore because the tension is still there underneath, waiting, ready to resume the moment there is energy for it again. True rest is something else entirely. True rest is not the body running out. It is the body standing down, choosing in safety to release, because it no longer believes it needs to be ready. And this is the thing the chronically braced body has almost never had. It has known collapse, and it has known a lighter grade of tension it mistook for calm. But the deep, chosen, safe release of true rest has been missing, because true rest requires a felt sense of safety the body was never given. There is grief in seeing this. Grief for all the years of carrying a weight so constant it became invisible. For a body that never got to be a child's body, loose, easy, unguarded, because it had to grow up ready. For all the rest that was never really rest, all the calm that was only quiet attention, all the nights of collapse mistaken for peace. For how long the body stood guard, faithfully, asking nothing, while the person inside it never even knew it was working. But underneath the grief is something the body is finally allowed to receive. The rest it was always owed, not earned, owed. Because a body was never meant to stand guard forever. It was designed to brace and then to release, to visit readiness and then to leave it. And the only reason it never left was that it was never shown it could. The rest was always the body's birthright. It was only ever waiting for the safety that would let it come. And that safety can be built, now, by the grown person the child became. Slowly, in the body's own language, one full breath at a time, not by forcing the tension away, but by finally giving the body the thing it needed all along, the repeated, lived experience of being safe, until it believes it, until it dares to let go. The body learned to brace in a world where bracing was necessary. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It kept a child ready, and the child survived, and the tension it held was never a flaw. It was a devotion, a decades-long act of protection, carried out silently by a body that only ever wanted to keep them safe. But that world is gone now, and the readiness has outlived the danger, so there is nothing to fix and no one to blame. There is only, at last, a message to deliver, patiently, gently, in the language the body understands, to a system that has been holding its breath since childhood. The emergency is over. The war it kept fighting ended long ago, and the weight it forgot it was carrying, the weight it held so faithfully for so long, can finally be put down.